Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with the daily technical update. It is Wednesday the 20th of November and we'll have a look at Nvidia again today. My source told me it was yesterday after market that Nvidia was planned to release earnings, but apparently it is today after market. So let's have a look at it once again. In normal market, yesterday it traded up 5%, bouncing back above this rising trend line here. We are still having divergence on the RSI, indicating trend exhaustion, but again, you should trust the trend with higher highs and higher lows. It hasn't really demolished that picture. On the weekly, as we talked about yesterday, also very strong divergence on the RSI, indicating trend exhaustion. So let's see if everything turns around after the earnings later today and tomorrow. We will get the reaction to it, and of course also in the aftermarket. But could it push up to and break $150? That's going to be key. If it takes out the 131, 128, especially 128.70 level here, well, then it could look at darker times for Nvidia. Tesla, on the other hand, is resuming uptrend after a little corrective move here. Not a big surprise because RSI was telling us that there was positive sentiment and there was no divergence, and it is likely to push higher to previous peaks around 370, 378, maybe up to 385, maybe even higher in the coming days and weeks. There's no divergence on the RSI on the weekly either, so it is indicating higher levels for Tesla. Moving on to the overall indices, here we have S&P500 that bounced from support, this gap support here, and the 50% retracement just around 5,860.64. If we can close this gap up here, then I think we could see an uptrend to resume. It is not unlikely since the RSI is still in positive sentiment and there's no divergence. We actually have the higher levels here, so no divergence there. However, this seems like what we call an island reversal. If it closes this gap down here, well, then down to 5,783. If it closes below that, well, then we could see selling pressure, and the supports down here around 5,700 could come under pressure. Pre-market, we are taking up a little bit, as we can see here at the about 0.25%, but let's see, it's still early times. Nasdaq 100 bounced from the 61.8 retracement. Key will be, can it close back up this gap area here? So meaning that if it can close back higher, and let's just add a trend line so we can actually see, and we need a body gap, we need at least a close above 20,897. If it closes this gap down here to 20,227, well, then we could see the 19,880 come under pressure, and if it takes out, well, then it is bearish. It's a bearish signal. However, we have the moving averages rising, adding to the positive underlying sentiment, and pre-market we are up about 0.25%. Dow Jones very quickly dipped below the just below the 43,000, but there is a positive sentiment on the RSI. If it can move back above and close this little gap up here to 43,750, well, then we could see a resuming of the uptrend. But we have this top reversal pattern here in place, so a little bit cautious there on Dow. European markets, and let's have a look at EUROSTOXX. EUROSTOXX 50 dipped below and actually took out the lows here from last week, this doji here, but it did close above 47.32, which is key. But we are in a bearish trend with lower lows and lower highs, and RSI is in negative sentiment, and we can also see the moving averages are tilting over here. So there is an upper pressure to the downside, so to speak. So we could see it dipping further lower to 46.50 and maybe even lower. It really needs to get back above 4,900 to turn around. We are up pre-market about 0.5%, so bouncing a little bit, and it's interesting. It actually did close above the the support there. 19,000 is also key support for DAX. It dipped below once again yesterday, but did close back above, which is a little bit of a sign of a strength, and the RSI is still above 40, and there's no so there's still positive sentiment. If it does close below 19,000, it will really be bad for it. But it, as we can see, it dipped below to this gap area here, and the 100 moving average just above it. So it's still holding on with its fingernails, so to speak, above 19,000, and that's the key. And we can also see here pre-market it is trading a little bit higher, about 0.5% currently higher here, trying to push higher. The Amsterdam index also dipped below its support, but closed above 858, which is key. And the CAC 40, well, also dipped lower, almost to the 7100, which we talked about. There's still risk down to that level, maybe even lower. And we can see a pre-market about 0.5% back, but it doesn't really much. And the Swiss market dipped to the 11,420 support, the previous lows here back from August. Really bad move for the Swiss market, but it did bounce at the end here. Pre-market up about 0.5%, so we're trading around 11,500 and 11,600, just above that. Let's see if we can get a correction in here, maybe up to 11,750. Not much to say on euro dollar, still trying to bounce higher towards the 106.65. I think I can do it, but if it takes out the lows here from last week at 104.96, well, then expect a push to lower to 104.38, possibly lower. So it is a little bit in a limbo at the moment. Cable here also trying to correct higher towards the 38.2 retracement, 127.70. There should be potential up to it, but we are in a downtrend short term and medium term. And if it takes out the lows here from last week, well, then expect a push lower to around 125. Euro sterling got rejected at the 61.8 retracement here at 83.76. And seems to be resuming downtrend. It's back below the 55 moving average, and I think it will resume downtrend, possibly testing 83 once again. I'll just add a horizontal line here. You can see if it takes out the 83 level, just 83 and a change there, well, then expect a push lower to test the previous lows here, which could be broken. Dollar yen bounced from the 21 moving average and the 153.40. Let's just adjust this one a little bit. We can see it here, and still above this lower rising trend line here in this channel-like pattern. Could it push towards trying to get up to the 157.70, despite showing some divergence on the RSI, as we can see. We are in an exhaustive phase, at least what it looks like. But if it can get back above the previous peak there at 156.75, well, then it could maybe cancel this divergence here. But let's see, it could also be rejected. If it takes out the lows from yesterday here at 153.20 and a quarter, well, then we could see a push lower to 151.45 level, possibly lower. The euro yen also bounced after dipping below the 38.2 retracement and the support at 161.90. If it can get back above 165, meaning it can get back above the 200 moving average, well, then it can push higher towards 168 level. This breakout of the rising wedge is still in play, but there's some strong support here, as you can see, 55 moving average, RSI also positive sentiment, and there's no divergence. I think it will push higher in the coming days. Aussie yen also bouncing from the 55 moving average back above the 100 and the 200 moving average. I think it will take out, and what I will do, just to give you an idea of what it could do, it has this little energy here after this corrective phase here, that it could push higher towards the 103.5, maybe higher towards 105 level. And sterling yen also bouncing from the 38.2 retracement 193.75 and support level, and I think it will challenge the peak here and could push higher above that in the coming days and weeks. Aussie dollar bounce up to 38.2 retracement, could resume downtrend if it takes out the peak from today at 65.44. Well, then I think we'll see a push up to around 66, and then a correction likely to resume, but it could also resume now. So it's a little bit in a limbo at the moment. Still divergence on the RSI here. We can see this lower levels here are higher than over here. So that's a divergence, meaning the downtrend exhausting. But let's see if it starts pushing lower here and takes out 64.40. Well, then we're looking at 63.60 levels. Dollar Canada is still in a corrective phase. I think it will dip down to the 61.8 at 139.30, and then we'll see a bounce on dollar Canada. Still trying to get back up here, but I think we need another dip lower on dollar Canada. Sterling Canada overnight has been testing the key support at 176.80. However, we are in a bearish trend. We are below the cloud. We are below 100 moving average. The RSI in negative sentiment, no divergence, indicating we could take it out and drop lower to a 175 area where we have the 200 moving average coming up. But there's no strong support until around 174 if it takes out that. It has dipped a little bit below here. So really something to keep an eye on at the moment on sterling Canada. Swiss francs, Euro Swiss dipped yesterday below 293 and hit it basically spot on the support there and bounced back above 93.30 and also back above the rising trend line here. But this area here is really key and could be tested once again. If it takes out 93, then I think we'll see a sell-off down to 92.50, possibly a lower down to 92, and the lows here back from August, which is just above 92. Dollar Swiss bouncing from the 38.2 retracement at 88, back above the 200 moving average. There is still positive sentiment, no divergence, indicating we're likely to see higher levels on dollar Swiss, and that could also help the euro dollar to resume downtrend, which is a kind of a limbo at the moment, if it should do a larger correction or not. It seems like we're pushing higher towards the 89.25 resistance. If it takes out, which I believe it will, then we have a potential up to 90 level. Finally, on the dollar index still in a corrective phase, but really not doing much. Could still dip down to 105.57, but if it takes out 106.99 with the previous peak here, well, then there's potential higher. And just to recap on the weekly chart, we can see why it starts at 107.05, really key resistance. But we are in a bullish trend, no divergence, indicating likely higher levels on the dollar index. Gold correction seems to fizzle a little bit, at least at first take. We are at the 38.2 retracement at 26.33, which we talked about yesterday. We could get up to. We have the 55 moving average giving a little bit of downside pressure. However, we are back above the cloud. We were never below the cloud. We were in the cloud, so in neutral. The negative sentiment on the RSI is still giving a little bit of a pressure to the downside. I think if it takes out the peak today at 26.42, then we'll see a push up to the 61.8 retracement at 26.93, which is not unlikely for a corrective move. If it starts pushing below 2600, we could see another pressure on the another test of the support down here at 25.30, 5.45 level. On the silver, bounced almost all the way up to the 38.2 retracement. Didn't get all the way up there, and now it's fizzling a little bit. We could be a little bit range bound here around the 31 level for the next few days. However, we are back above the cloud. didn't get back below it, so we are above the cloud, and we should resume uptrend towards the 61.8 retracement just below 33. However, the RSI is still negative sentiment, but if it can get back above its falling trend line there, it could push higher and maybe take out the 60 threshold, but it really needs to take out the 31.66 level to begin with. Copper, also a little bit of bounce. There is potential up to the 418, 419. I think it will be range bound here. We are in a bearish trend short term. We are in a negative sentiment. So it could be a bit of a struggle to get back above 422.5, even up to 430. It would be a stretch, but it's still not unlikely, but a really strong resistance up in this area here. So I will stay on the sideline a little bit until I see a move. Oil, well, still in bouncing mode. I think it's range bound here between 66.70 and 72.5. The WTI Brent Crude oil obviously the same. It did form this bullish engulfing here, but 70 spot 72 and up to 76.5 level. I think will be range trading this area here. It really needs to break out of these ranges there. The Dutch gas, well, a little bit lower. But it is in a bullish trend, as we talked about, and if you're looking at the weekly chart, we can see it is in this rising channel here, testing the upper trend line. Henry Hub gas, well, it is pushing higher, now breaking out of the upper falling trend line here, the weekly breaking out, has potential up to 350, 360 for level. If it can take out 316 at the previous peak there, then I think we are pushing towards that. We are in a bullish trend, positive sentiment supporting the bullish picture. US 10-year Treasury yield actually dipped below the low rising trend line here, but it's still in a bullish trend. But we are in exhaustive mood here, trend to exhaustion mood. But if it can take out 450, and 450 is really the key. Just to recap and look at the weekly, we'll see why. If you haven't been following me the past few weeks, really key up here. If it takes out that, well, then there's potential to 475 and higher on the US 10-year. Support here around 428, 425 on the US 10-year. The 2-year, well, also in uptrend exhaustion, we should have a correction lower to around 4%, 406, and resistance at 437. The EUROBund future spiked higher yesterday, but still back in this range here. We talked about could be range trading here in this area here for quite some time, and I actually think I will adjust this a little bit to say, okay, if it takes out 131.28, expect to push lower to 130.25 around that level, because we are in a downtrend, we are in a negative sentiment. You can also see the 55 moving average is declining now, shortly taking over the or dipping below the 100 moving average. So there will be the upside potential is currently a little bit limited. The UK gilts that spiked higher to the 38.2 retracement at 94.60 yesterday is now opening here lower, and could be testing the lows here from the past few weeks. Despite we having this bottom reversal pattern, could easily be cancelled, and there is potential medium term, as we can see here on the weekly, down to around 91.90 level. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day and talk to you later.